Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, where we break down the biggest movies and uncover every twist. And today, we're diving into Paul Feig's 2025 thriller The Housemaid, starring Sydney Sweeney as Millie and Amanda Seyfried as Nina, a film that's grossed over $310 million and sparked sequel talks. So if you've seen it, then stick around for the full plot recap, ending breakdown, and why this erotic psychological thriller flips the script on domestic abuse stories. So the film starts as Millie Calloway arrives at the home of the wealthy Winchester family living on Long Island. And there she meets housewife Nina, who shows her around the house and explains that the housemaid job she applied for is a live-in position. So Millie hands her a big resume with several qualifications, but as Millie leaves after the interview, she narrates how she doesn't think she's going to hear back from Nina, since her resume is a bunch of lies. Then Millie is shown to be living out of her car and struggling to find work after being released from prison after 10 years. So as two officers told her to clear the space, luckily she is surprised to get a phone call from Nina inviting her to take up the job. Later, we see Millie starts to take up her duties as housemaid and meets the soft-spoken groundskeeper Enzo, before meeting Nina's husband Andrew and their daughter Cece. After that, Nina shows Millie to her bedroom, which is an attic upstairs that has a deadbolt lock. Then one morning, Millie hears Nina yelling and trashing the kitchen in a rage because she cannot find some notes for a PDA speech and thinks Millie threw them out. So to calm her, Andrew comes down and then apologizes to Millie for Nina's behavior. Later another day, Millie meets Andrew's mother Evelyn, who brings a good china plate to be kept safe with her son. Then before Millie goes to meet with her parole officer, something she hides from the Winchesters, Nina gives her a hard time about not taking time off until Andrew says it's okay. Meanwhile, Millie tries to connect with Cece, who doesn't receive Millie very well. But Nina tells Millie to pick Cece up from ballet class, but when she gets there, she finds that Cece is having a play date with another girl, whose mother confirms with Nina over the phone. So feeling confused and enraged, Millie later hears from another girl at ballet that it was rumored that Nina tried to drown Cece in the tub when she was an infant, and then tried to commit suicide before being committed to a psych ward. On the other side, Millie has trouble sleeping because of closed window and no fresh air, so she goes to the basement, which is actually Andrew's man cave. So there he sees her and joins her, telling Millie how Nina has always had a troubled past. Like how she lost her parents in a house fire when she was a child, and how Andrew thinks she may have started the fire herself. Later, suddenly Nina catches them together and tries to fire Millie, but she begs Nina to give her a second chance. So after hearing the plea, Nina relents and agrees, but warns Millie to stay away from Andrew. Then Nina continues to mess with Millie, like talking about her with the other housewives in the neighborhood, as well as revealing that she was lying about expecting another baby, like she told Millie when they first met. Later that night, Millie heard some noise coming from Nina's room, only to get terrified when she saw a broken glass piece with blood, which Nina is holding. But as Millie thought that she killed Andrew, he came and took Nina away. Then next morning, Nina gave some of her clothes to Millie and asks her to book tickets to a Broadway show that Andrew wants to see so they can spend the weekend together. But when Millie does get the tickets, Nina says the show falls on a weekend where she is taking Cece to art camp, so she berates Millie for getting non-refundable tickets. Later, Andrew tells Millie that he can go with her, so they go in secret. Then Andrew also mentions to Millie that he is not Cece's biological father, which she doesn't know about. So as Millie and Andrew gets dinner after the show and check into the hotel in adjoining rooms, Millie finds dozens of angry texts from Nina and shows them to Andrew, where he gets Millie to relax before they start to kiss and eventually have sex. Later, the two return home the next day, with Nina apologizing to Millie for her texts. But Nina later brings up Millie's prison sentence to Andrew out of nowhere, before giving Millie her car to drive around since her actual car is embarrassing. Then at the grocery store, Millie learns from one of Nina's friends that Nina tracked her phone, meaning she knows about the affair. Then as she come outside, the cops show up after the car is reported stolen, and Andrew comes to bail Millie out. After that, Nina confronts Millie and Andrew after finding a playbill and knows they slept together. So after she blow up on Andrew, he orders her to leave the house, which Nina does. Later, Millie and Andrew begin a relationship together over some time, but Millie gets startled when Enzo shows up outside on morning after having previously warned her to get away from the house, causing her to drop a tray with Evelyn's china. So hearing the cracking sound, Andrew came and sends Enzo away before helping Millie clean up. Then sometime after, they go to Millie's room and make out after sharing a drink. But when Millie wakes up, having been drugged by Andrew, she finds all of her stuff gone, and she is now locked in the room. So Millie begins frantically pounding on the door. Meanwhile, the film jumps back to the scene when Nina left the house, which is what she was planning all along. And we see she writes a letter to Cece, explaining her whole life up to this point. Like Nina brings up the fire that killed her parents, that she loved them, but she always resented Andrew, implying she had something to do with it. Actually, here we learns Nina's past, like after going in and out of foster homes, Nina got impregnated by her college professor, who wanted nothing to do with Cece. And then Nina eventually met Andrew and got married to him, but he later showed his true colors when he brought up being displeased with Nina's roots showing in her hair. So he locked her in the attic until she plucked off 100 strands of hair with visible follicles. Later, he forced her to do it again because one single strand did not have a follicle. Then when Andrew finally let Nina out of the attic, he drugged her and staged it to look like she tried to drown Cece and had her committed. Although she got out, she tried to get herself and Cece out of the house with Enzo's help, but Andrew found out and had her committed again, or would keep locking her away for every little mistake. So seeing no other way out, Nina found a pawn in Millie to take her place by winning Andrew over. On the other side, we see Millie, and the film goes back to Millie's perspective, showing what landed her in prison. Like in school, she killed her roommate's boyfriend when she caught him raping her, but the roommate denied everything, and Millie served 10 years out of a 15-year sentence. So then in the present, Andrew explains that he locked Millie in the attic because of the broken china. And he forces her to cut into her stomach with a plate shard 21 times for every broken piece, and then he will let her out. So with no other choice, Millie makes the cuts and waits to be let out. And when Andrew comes in, Millie stabs him in the neck with a concealed knife before locking him in the room. So now with the roles reversed, Millie comes back and destroys the rest of Evelyn's china before slipping him some pliers to rip out his front tooth in retribution for his torture. But as Andrew reluctantly does so, Millie leaves him there. Meanwhile, we see Nina is with Cece and is ready to start a new life, but Cece says they should bring Millie with them. So Nina goes back to the house and goes to the attic, thinking Millie is still locked in there. But she realizes too late when Millie comes back and Andrew bursts out of the room, throwing Nina down the stairs before chasing after Millie. But she manages to disappear, leaving Nina to deal with her husband, where he tries to convince her that she still needs him, but she tells him how much he and his mom suck, after which Millie emerges and pushes Andrew over the spiral staircase, smashing his head and neck on the way down to his death. Then Nina tries to stage the scene like Andrew fell trying to change a light bulb and tells Millie to get out, like apologetically telling her that she didn't deserve any of what happened. Later, as the police arrive after Enzo helps Nina clean up. But when the lady officer was interviewing Nina, she notes the stab wound in Andrew's neck, but since Andrew was the cop's sister's original fiancé, whom Nina had heard of, the cop appears to cover the crime. Actually, here we learn that maybe Andrew also tormented the officer's sister as well. So after everything is done, Nina attends Andrew's funeral with Cece and denies knowing the details of his death to Evelyn. Later, she talks about Andrew's smile, and here we became sure that Andrew inherited the sadistic behavior from his mother. After that, Nina spots Millie talking to Cece and then hands Millie a check for $100,000 to start a new life. And on a different scene, we see Millie later goes to a job interview for another housewife, who says that Nina specifically suggested her for the job. Where Millie sees a bruise on the woman's wrist as she implies her husband is also abusive and that she might know what Millie has done in the past. But Millie simply asks when she can start. So the Housemaid delivers lurid 90s erotic thriller vibes with infectious twists, strong Seyfried performance as the scheming survivor, and feminist empowerment, earning 74% score on Rotten Tomatoes and $310 million box office collection. But sometimes pacing lags mid-film and Sweeney stiff, but the wild final act and vigilante setup make it a fun and trashy escape, which is worth watching for thriller fans. So that's the full breakdown of The Housemaid, and tell me, did the twist shock you? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and check the sequel news since it's greenlit from the book series. So like if you want more 2025 hits like this, subscribe for more explains, and hit the bell.